Hey, welcome to the Guitar Hacker channel. My name is Pat. Thanks for watching. This is a brand new channel, and Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Day 2018, and what we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through how to build a basic, crunchy, throaty 80s slash rock and roll-ish slash just Marshall-y tone, for lack of a better word. I'm going to give you some tips on how to use an amp sim to your best advantage. And but before we get into all that, just want to give you the signal chain. Here's a graphic of the signal chain. It's a 76 Les Paul standard. Beat the shit. The guitar is actually kind of irrelevant to this, but that's just what I'm using. I'm going into a Focusrite SCARLEtt 212 audio interface. You can pretty much use whatever interface you want. There are some inexpensive ones available on Amazon. There's a link down in the description. If you don't have one of these, you can get started fairly cheap. And I'm using TH3 in this example. And you can get the free trial of TH3, and it is a fully functional free trial. You can use everything that's in it. It does have limitations. It's going to be noise, and it's going to fade in and out once in a while, but nonetheless, you'll be able to get the idea. So having said all that, let's move on. The first tip that I want to give you is right up the very first important thing that you want to do is on your interface, you want to set your level so that you're in the green and you're not farting out into the yellow or the red, which is pretty basic. I can't really show you that because I don't have my camera on that, but nonetheless, you want to adjust your level. You always want to be in the green on your interface. But the most important thing that you want to make sure of is if you look up here in the top left corner here, right around this TH3 logo, you'll see a level that says in. And you, before we bring anything into the chain, you want to check that signal. And you want to wrench down on it pretty much as hard as you're ever going to do. And see how I'm clipping out there. I'm peaking at 60 to 70%. Ideally, you don't want to go any higher than 60 or 70%. And the reason you don't want to do that is you're working with digital converters, and you're going from analog to digital, back to digital. And you want to keep as little distortion in the input signal as possible, because you will get digital distortion if you go a little too high. And if you do that and you add it to a distorted amp sim signal, it's going to mess with your gain staging. It's going to cause some unwanted digital distortion, and it's going to just dirty up your signal in a way that you don't want it to be. So that's the most important thing on the signal, is to make sure it's wrenching right around 60-70%. And then if we come over here to the output, it's always a good idea to keep the output between 50 and 75%, and the reason for that is we're going to use the actual amp volume itself to dial in the gain stage, because you want to leave yourself enough headroom where you can adjust up if necessary, but you don't want it too hot that it's going to overload a recording program or a board that you're sending it to or anything like that. So that's tip number 2. Okay, let's move on. Tip number 3, and this is a very important tip. It took me a while to figure this out because I'm old school and I'm used to old amps and the old hardware and just, real world stuff that you can hold in your hand instead of the digital stuff. But when it comes to getting a really good crunchy distorted tone on one of these things, the most important thing that you want to do first is you want to start with a higher gain amp and dial the gain back a little bit. It's always better to take the highest gain amp that you can get and dial the gain back to get that gnarly, crunchy Marshall tone than it is to take a clean amp or a less distorted amp and throw fuzz boxes and overdrives in front of it and try and jack up the signal to get that sound. And the reason for that is you're adding distortion to the signal, you're adding other effects to the signal chain. What you want to do, for the most important thing you want to do first, is get your amp and cabinets dialed in to exactly as close to the sound as you want before we start messing with anything else. So what we want to do then is we're going to bring in this Randall T2 head, and we're just going to go ahead and tell it to match the cabinet, and that'll give us a good starting point. And so we have this high gain amp here. So all we're going to do is we're going to leave all the tone controls at 5 o'clock. Or I'm 5 o'clock, I'm sorry. You have to forgive me, I have bronchitis and I'm on little meds here. But if you want to leave it at 12 o'clock is what I meant to say. And we're going to all we're going to do is wrench up the gain just a little bit. And we're going to see what that sounds like. Okay, see how it has that overdriven kind of throaty sound? We're going to take this sound and we're going to build on it until we get what we want. But let's go ahead, since now that we have the amp in, let's check our output level up top. And up in the right-hand corner where you can see where it says out. See how we're not farting out and it's not getting real high and we still have headroom? That's what we want. Okay. Okay, tip number 3. Bear with me here a second. I think we're on tip number 3. Let's see. Tip number 1 was level in. Tip number 2 was level out. Yes, okay. We got the amp. Tip number 3. Your EQ controls on your amp, you want to leave them exactly where they are. We don't want to mess with any EQ controls until we dial in the exact sound that we want with our cabinets. And this is a tip for you. What we're going to do now is we're going to cycle through the actual cabinet choices, because there's a gazillion of them, and we're going to keep going until I get the actual tone that I'm looking for, and then we're going to build on it from there. But let's go ahead and see here's what we got so far. Okay. Okay, but we can do better. Let's go ahead and scroll through some. That one I don't like. It kind of took the mids out. There's one in here that I really do like. Let's see what this one sounds like. Okay, that added some bottom end for sure. Let's try this 212. Nope, not going to do it. Let's okay, see how that's farting out up there? Just by changing the cabinets, we were able to get it to fart out and change the sound that much. So let's move on. Nope, that's not going to work. I already know that one's not going to work. Okay, let's go. That's pretty cool. Okay, let me remember that one, but there's one in here. Let's see, where is this sucker? Bear with me, we're getting there. Definitely not that one. There we go, I think it's that one there. And as you can tell, this is actually a 112, so don't let the size of the speakers or the amount of speakers dictate what your ear hears. It's two totally different things. So now that we have our cabinet that we're going to use and we have our head there, we're going to look up in the right corner, and as you can see, we're not farting out, we're not doing anything that we don't really want to do. So now, your tone controls, as I stated earlier, we're going to go ahead and leave those at 5 o'clock. And when you look at tone controls, on this Randall head, these are a little confusing because it has a level and has a sweep for the mids, so we're not going to worry about any of these. But what I wanted to tell you was, when you look at tone controls on your amp, because all these stuff applies to a real amp as well, so these tips, by the way. But you see everything is pointing straight up at 12 o'clock. Look at these as 0. In other words, like if I took the bass and took it down all the way, it would be minus, and if I took it up the whole way from 5 o'clock, it'd be plus. So in other words, don't look at that as 0 and this plus 10. You always want to look at tone controls on an amp as they're zeroed out at 12 o'clock. So anything that you go down below 12 o'clock is taken away from the actual frequency, and anything going above it is adding to the frequency, and we'll get to that later. But what we're going to do now is, I think we're on tip number 4 or 5. You're gonna I have no idea, but nonetheless, here's the next tip. We're going to go in and we're going to bring a chorus pedal in. And before you say, oh, chorus, I don't like choruses, we're not going to actually use the chorus in this particular instance as a quote-unquote chorus sound. What we're going to do is we're going to use a certain chorus. It's called a dimension, and you can do this with a bunch of different chorus pedals. I just happen to use this one. And what it's going to do is it's going to thicken the stereo field. It's not really going to give you a chorus effect that you're going to audibly hear, but it's going to broaden the sound, and it's going to make your sound just so much more thick and so much more full. So here, let's take a few examples without it first. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add the dimension to the front of this. And you normally always want to put your modulation effects at the front of an amp. That's just, from my personal experience, it just works out better that way. And we're going to bump this mode up to number 4. Now this is a dimension chorus. It's a pretty weird pedal. It doesn't actually give it a chorus effect. It's more of a doubling, but you can do this with a regular chorus. And the way you do that is you pull a regular chorus into it, you turn the mix up 100%, and you turn the depth and the width down to about 1%, and it'll pretty much do the same thing. But listen to what this does here now. Well, here, let's try it again with it off. Now let's go ahead with the dimension. See how that doubles the sound? Well, not really doubles, but thickens it up to a point. Okay, it just adds to the actual depth of the sound, which is what we want. So now we have a pretty cool Marshall-y tone going on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to add a little reverb to it, just to give it a little bit of depth. Let's go down here and see what we got. And me personally, I always like to use Hall reverbs and dial back on it if I have to. I just find the plates and the rooms just don't provide enough reverb balls, if you will. And we're always going to put the reverb at the end of the signal chain, never before it, because the reverb is actually the echo of the signal. So you want to put the echo after the signal, not before. So let's see what this sounds like. Hear how we got that long tail, that reverb? Hear how that kind of filled it up and it gives you that kind of echo? There we go. And if you don't like if you think it's a little bit too much for you, you just dial back on the wet level here a little bit. Hear how that takes it out a little bit, and then we can go up. Let's tell you what. Let's go Reverb City. Let's see what happens. Yes, hear that? That's obviously way too much, but we're going to go ahead and let's bring it back down to about 15. Okay, yeah, we can live with that. Now, that's your basic tone, but what we're going to do now is we're going to leave all the controls the way we left them here on now bear in mind, if you're doing this with a real amp and you don't have an EQ, by all means go ahead and mess with your tone controls, but the idea here is you want to keep the amp as basic as possible and try not to color it too much. So let's see, let's bring out a little bit of harmonics in it. So let's go grab an EQ. I'm just going to grab your normal 7-band and we're going to throw that at the front. So here it is without any kind of EQ on it whatsoever. And what I want to do is I want to bring out just a little bit more throatiness. So somewhere in the 3,000 to 6,000 range, we're going to bring them up just a hair. And bear in mind, everything that you add EQ-wise to the level, it's going to make the level out hotter, so you might have to dial back. So, and I didn't bring it up too much, so we got pretty fortunate. It didn't change the level too much, but hear how this adds a little bit of throatiness to it. Now let's turn the EQ off. Let's go ahead and turn it back on. Okay, that gives us a little bit of throatiness, but let's give it just a little bit more. Let's dial up this 1K just a hair. Okay, that's what we're going for. The only thing I can think this would need yet is let's try and put a little oomph into it. Let's raise the bottom end around 100 hertz a little bit. All right, so there we go. That's basically it. So thanks for watching the video. I'm going to have a bunch of more of these. I have a couple more hacker videos I'm going to put up here soon, but this is a basic hack on how to do this. If you want to get an audio interface and join the party and learn how to do this kind of stuff, there's links down in the description. There's going to be a link down in the description for the free the TH3. And let's tell you what, before we get out of here, just for a goof, let's go ahead and add a delay to this and just play a few lead lines here. We're going to add the delay. Let's pull that in. And we're going to add the delay before the reverb. I always like to have the reverb tail off of the delay. So let's see what kind of delay we got here. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. All right. 30 Marshall tone, man. It doesn't get much better than that. And this is all right on a home computer with no amp whatsoever. I love these amp sims. I have 100 of these things, and we're going to go through different settings on them. But I have a cabinet hack I want to show you in another video. I'm just trying to keep these videos down to as short as possible. Thanks for watching this debut video of Guitar Hacker channel. Again, my name's Pat. If you like this kind of content, hit subscribe down here in the left-hand corner, hit the bell, and it'll tell you some more videos that are coming up. And hopefully the next time I talk to you, I won't be sick with bronchitis, and you'll be able to hear my voice a little bit better. But this is Guitar Hacker, over and out. Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped you out. Any questions, throw them in the comment section. Have a good Christmas, guys. See you later.